So we commonly hear that humans and chimps or apes share about 98% of their DNA, that they're so similar that we obviously shared a common ancestor in the past. But the reality is very different. When you really start looking at the DNA, and there are some creation scientists that have done studies that have shown that really it's probably more like in the 80% similarity, 85% similarity, which people would say, wow, that's still a lot of similarity, but you got to understand that's like 15% of 3 billion, which is how many bases we have in our DNA. That's millions and millions of differences. And there's no way to have that many differences in a very short period of time, just a few million years since we supposedly had a common ancestor. And you got to understand too, and the biggest thing to me is when they're counting differences between human and chimp DNA, there's certain differences they don't count. So when you hear that number of 98%, you got to realize they're leaving out what are called indels. They're leaving out non-aligned DNA. They're leaving out a lot of things because if those are true, if those differences are true, it doesn't fit their evolutionary time frame at all, and it becomes a really big problem for them. So they just don't count them. So when it comes to comparing chimp and human DNA, one of the main differences is that chimps have 24 pairs of chromosomes and humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So if we evolved from the same ancestor, how is it we have one less pair of chromosomes than the chimps do? So to explain this, they say, well, what's happened is there's been a fusion of 2 of the chimp chromosomes after we came off the ancestor, so that chimps have 24 still and humans now have 23. And there's so many problems with that. When you really look at the DNA, so they say it's for human chromosome 2, and that chimp chromosomes 12 and 13 fuse to form one chromosome 2 in human. When you line them up and you look at them, they're totally different. I mean, the sequences just don't line up, especially at the fusion point itself. The other thing is, so chromosomes have these things on the end called telomeres, which are long sequences of DNA that are kind of repetitive. So if a fusion of 2 chromosomes had occurred at the fusion point, there should be a lot of telomeric sequences, okay? And they're not in human chromosome 2. At the fusion point, we don't find all these telomeric sequences. So those are just some of the problems with that being, with the idea that that's what happened in the past, because the DNA sequence just does not bear that out.